What's up, squad? It's Brandon from the Bantu Sun. Thanks so much for joining me today. I wanted to hop on and discuss what we're seeing happening in the Middle East right now. Now, I don't know how many times I have said this, but geopolitically speaking, the Middle East remains the center of the world. Its access between Asia, Europe, and Africa is extremely vital. I believe the Suez Canal is the insurance policy that the U.S. uses to uphold its alliance with Europe and even as far as East Asia, because you have these goods going between East Asia, these industrial goods from China, Japan, Korea, going across the Indian Ocean through the Suez Canal to Europe. And let's not forget all the oil that has to travel through to feed oil poor Europe, especially at this time where you have Russia on the outs and Europe need to supplement its energy resources. So what we're seeing now is in Yemen, who sits there nearly kissing the hip of the Horn of Africa, Yemen has decided to attack any ships it deems to be related to shipments going to Israel. This is causing chaos in our international shipping order. Ships are now starting to go around South Africa the long way, going all the way across to southern Africa and up the Atlantic coast of Africa to get to Europe. This causes great expense and time delay for goods going to Europe. It's basically unsustainable. But it's all because if these certain ships are deemed related to Israel, they may be confiscated or attacked by the Houthis in Yemen. And so the reason why this is really interesting in full circle is I don't know if you remember, but it was only a few years ago that Saudi Arabia was in a war with Yemen. And one of the reasons that Saudi Arabia was in a war, and it wasn't a full-scale invasion of a war, but there was bombings and missile launches in support for the Saudi-aligned leadership in Yemen. And that was because the Houthis were rising up, and Saudi Arabia saw this, and Saudi Arabia tried to stop this. And the Houthis are assumed or are aligned with Iran. So the Houthis taking over leadership in Yemen, the Houthis taking over leadership in Yemen, basically allows Iran to get a foothold on the Arabian Peninsula. They had a somewhat of an alliance of Qatar. Qatar likes to play the middleman in a lot of these things. Don't forget, Qatar was the negotiating member between the Taliban and Afghanistan and the U.S. So Qatar likes to be able to talk to both sides, and it's also the media capital with Al Jazeera. So, but the Houthis are far more in a militant or military alliance with the Iranian regime. And of course, Iran and Saudi Arabia have some shaky relationships, basically both trying to compete for leadership in the Islamic world, which I don't think the strongest Islamic country out there is Turkey, but these two countries are competing for, what you would say, the ideological or the cultural influence within the Islamic world. So China's been working on squashing that and trying to bring these two sides together. So in response, Saudi has basically leveled down their attacks on Yemen. But the problem remains now that now you have this Iranian influence, and Iran and its allies, some believe you would say Hezbollah, uh, you would say the Assad regime of Syria, you would say, some would say Hamas, Houthis, they're all in cahoots with Iran, and Iran is considered to be a major backer of these groups, which are very, very much against Israel and the Jewish claim to the land of Israel. And so it really makes you think, one, Saudi Arabia per capita probably has one of the highest military spending, excuse me, correction. Saudi Arabia per capita has the highest military spending in the world. And this is really interesting because Saudi Arabia has proven nothing but feckless when it comes to military matters. You can see this in its blockade of Qatar, which it did not go that well, or it's trying to squash the Houthis in Yemen, which did not go so well. So Saudi Arabia, despite all this military spending, has not proven to be able to implement its its authority basically, and its biggest lever for influence continues to be the moderation, or you would say the increase of its oil production. So that being said, with the Houthis in Yemen, it's forcing the U.S. to make a move because Saudi Arabia cannot handle the Houthis. The U.S. is either going to have to address the Houthi situation directly or figure out some other levers. And another thing that's very interesting is I have not saw one African country on the Horn, whether that's Somalia, Ethiopia, Djibouti, etc. Not one of them has came out in support of the West efforts to get their shipping through the Red Sea. So the West is not finding any friends on the east coast of Africa. There's a finding great hostilities with these Houthis in Yemen. So this is an evolving story. But once again, the Middle East proves to be the center of the geopolitical pie. The gateway between European markets and Asian goods, just as it was 1,000 years ago, remains a key matter in global commerce and trade and is extremely vital for the West maintaining its way of life. So, love to hear your thoughts. Please like, share, subscribe if you enjoy the content. Comment below. Until next time, take care. Bantu up.